Hey, Eagle fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Welcome to Fiddle of Eagles Now. Let's jump in the latest Eagles news and rumors here, focusing in on roster bubble candidates in 1 second. First, we need a lot more people to go ahead and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Big jump in our subscriptions yesterday as we're up to 57.5% of you guys who watch our videos who are subscribed. However, still 42% of the people who watch these videos are not subscribed. So if you're one of the people that watch but aren't subscribed, you obviously like the videos, so go down below and hit that red subscribe button. And also, we were going to ask a question for a chance for a shout out coming later in the video, so stay tuned on how to be a part of a shout out with a weekend mailbag in just a couple of minutes. So, all right, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, as mentioned, title of the video, we talked about it there at the start. We're jumping into some roster bubble candidates. They're cut candidates, but people who aren't guaranteed to be cut, they're more kind of on the bubble. So if they play well in training camp, they'll make the roster. If they don't, then boom, done. You're going to go ahead and have to find a new football team because you won't be a Philadelphia Eagle. So we're going to jump into some names that you might recognize, names that we've talked about before, names that we haven't. But let's start with the quarterback spot and Reid Sinnett, the quarterback who I think has a massive uphill battle to go ahead and make this roster. Very much a bubble candidate right now. He's a guy who hasn't played, obviously, a ton of football. I think back to his days with I think it was the Dolphins before he was with the Philadelphia Eagles. But a guy battling for the third-string quarterback spot. And the problem with it right now is that the third-string quarterback job is heavily contested, mainly due to the fact that you kind of have a guy named Carson Strong. Like, there's no chance you're going to be 1 or 2, because Hurts is 1 and Gardner Minshew is 2. And even though I'm shocked by this, Gardner Minshew remains in this roster, and maybe he'll stay on the roster the entire offseason, entire training camp, and actually be the number 2 throughout the year, which means that it's literally Carson Strong, versus Reid Sinnett, and everything we hear about Carson Strong is he looks great. I mean, Carson Strong has been fantastic so far during rookie minicamp and during OTAs, and even though that's rookie minicamp, that's OTAs, had a whole rant about that yesterday, and there's not guaranteeing he's going to be good or not, and he still has some knee durability questions. The arm strength looks good, the decision-making looks good, he looks very much like a quarterback who should have been drafted but was not, hence why Philadelphia was able to grab him as an undrafted free agent. So if you're Reid, you try to make this roster, you got to play better than a guy that the team seems very excited about. The team wants to build around and wants to go ahead and kind of continue that quarterback factory mantra of having a third-string guy who really is a second-string guy, and that way the second-string guy is really a first-string guy, and you can kind of swap people in and out if there were injuries or poor play at the top. And so we'll start with Reid Sinnett, who I think is very much a bubble candidate and is going to have an incredible, really, preseason in those third and fourth quarter, those preseason games for a chance to go ahead and make the roster. Okay, add rate pin comment down below. Name a player you think will get cut. We talk about this all the time because that's kind of one of the big steps coming up here in the Eagles, really, obviously it's a schedule, is cuts. And so name a player you think will be cut. That'll be down below. Answer that in the pinned comment. All right, next player we need to go and look at is Arcega-Whiteside. Again, very much a bubble candidate here, but a bubble candidate who I think stock is rising up. And we've talked about this in the past, talked about it yesterday, how Tyree Jackson officially is going to be starting to see a training camp season on the physically unable to perform PUP list. And so Jackson's injury really helps Whiteside. I think that as you look at the depth chart or think about the depth chart, yeah, Stoll is obviously there and Calcaterra is going to be there as well, but Whiteside has a real chance to be the number 3 tight end on this roster. And he has the route running and hands ability. Like, he knows what to do from a receiving standpoint, and he's always been one of the best run blockers in terms of wide receivers on the roster since being drafted. It's a matter of can he understand what to do from a close tight end set, with his hand in the ground, kind of on the edge of the offensive line, and then running out for some, shallow crosses or some stop routes or button routes or whatever they are. Can he figure out how to transition from being a wide receiver to a tight end? That is going to be his big question. But I think with Jackson's injury, they don't really have a choice. Like, unless they absolutely love Tyree Jackson and they're just guaranteeing him a roster spot no matter what, like even when he is healthy, I think that this is a very, very big opportunity for Whiteside to make the roster and stay a Philadelphia Eagle going into his last year of his rookie contract. And so his stock very much trending more up versus Reid Sinnett's, but very much a bubble candidate who could easily be cut by the time training camp is over if other tight ends are playing better than he is. Okay, make sure you guys go ahead and turn on notifications because right now, stuff's going to start picking up. Like, this is going to be probably the last or second to last week of kind of the quieter news stuff going on, and then once training camp starts, it's going to be crazy, and we're going to have plenty of community post updates on the channel, plenty of videos that I do here on the channel, all surrounding training camp, and so if you have your notifications turned on, you won't miss a thing, and you always can be a part of the interactive and the shout-out gang for people who hit the notification bell as well. So make sure you guys go ahead and go down below and hit that notification bell and be a subscriber as well. All right, let's talk about another roster bubble candidate we've not talked about a lot. That is Britton Covey. I think is how you say his last name. It's always a little bit tricky there to go ahead and figure out some of these guys. It's Covey is how you say his last name. I was practicing in the mirror before we started today's video. But obviously, the undrafted free agent wide receiver out of Utah very much is turning some heads. And I don't know if he's turning heads in the fact that, oh my gosh, he's a great receiver, but he's fantastic in terms of being a return man. Look over at the Rose Bowl that Utah had this past year. They 93-yard touchdown kick return. He is very much the guy that you want to be at the bottom of a wide receiver depth chart who can give you more than just being, the fifth wide receiver. He can return punts, return kicks. I think that gives him a massive, massive upside over some of the other wide receivers. They've tried to have Greg Ward do this, and he's done it in the past, just not really well, not that exciting. And Philadelphia has not had a legit deep return threat since you think kind of Darren Sproles and Josh Huff were the two guys in recent history who have been kind of in that spot. And so I definitely think Covey has a chance to make the roster. He is very much a bubble candidate. It's going to be him versus Ward versus guys like John Hightower for kind of that fifth or sixth final wide receiver spot on the depth chart. What do you guys think? Should the Eagles cut or keep Greg Ward? I think they're going to cut him, type C down below for cut, or type K down below for keep. This one's tough. I have no idea. Honestly, I have no idea. I've talked about cutting him in the past, talked about keeping him in the past. We'll see what you guys think in terms of if they should cut or keep him. Now, you guys should also subscribe to our main Chat Sports channel because that channel is like the one-stop shop, the main hub for all great NBA and NFL coverage, and it is getting crazy as training camp is getting closer and closer. They do a lot of power rankings over there, a lot of roster breakdowns, and obviously the NBA stuff is going crazy right now with Donovan Mitchell might be traded. That's where all that stuff lives. So be sure to subscribe to our main Chat Sports channel. Over 300,000 subscribers there, and a much better online alternative to things like SportsCenter and, Fox Sports and stuff like that. A lot more fun, a lot more interactive like we are here on this channel. Okay, Patrick Johnson is next here on our roster bubble candidate list, and it's much like some other guys on this list, he has kind of an uphill battle. I mean, Johnson is a guy still very, very young, trying to figure out the linebacker position, trying to figure out, how good of a pass rusher he is. Can he play a little bit of outside linebacker? What can you do for me right now? Because mainly, he's just been a special teams guy. As you go through the depth chart, Kyron Johnson, to me, has already kind of surpassed him. I think that Kyron Johnson very much is a guy who's going to learn from Hassan Reddick and kind of try to mold his game after Hassan Reddick and be kind of that outside linebacker edge rusher who can get to the quarterback as he did at Kansas. And if Johnson plays well, obviously being a draft pick, then a name like Patrick Johnson might be let go and might be one of the very obvious roster cuts. And I think that he has a very good chance of him being let go, especially with how many linebackers they brought in this offseason and the addition of a draft pick like Kyron Johnson. Okay, our shout out for today's video is Sean Paul H., who, of course, got the question right. 1944 was the answer to the question. That was Steve Van Buren, the running back, as well. A long time ago. I don't think you remember games happening back in 1944, but shout out to Sean Paul H. We give shout outs about one every single video, and so as we mentioned, we're going to tell you guys how to get a shout out here in just 1 second, but yesterday's shout out comes via Sean Paul H. Now, if you want a shout out, you gotta type Real One, and a Real One is a subscriber who watches the entire video. You don't just skim through this whole thing. Type Real One down below in the comment section, be a subscriber for a chance to be pulled by producer Trace, who pulls all of our shout outs in our mailbag video happening later on this weekend. All right, last roster bubble candidate. I haven't talked about him a lot recently. That's K'Von Wallace, because I always thought K'Von Wallace was a lock to make this roster until they signed Jaquiski Tartt. And once they signed Tartt, that safety depth chart has gotten very, very full. Like, do the Eagles need to keep Wallace? If he's not going to ever be able to play, its starting level game at the safety spot, then what's the point, right? He was drafted to be the replacement for Malcolm Jenkins, essentially. That was kind of the thought process there. And they moved Jalen Mills over, and that was a disaster. They've been trying to fill the Jenkins role for a while, and, the ties to Clemson, and back to Brian Dawkins. We all got excited about K'Von Wallace, but if they have to bring in Jaquiski Tartt because they don't feel very good about Epps or Wallace, or mainly, most notably Wallace, then he's very easily a roster bubble candidate and might not end up making the roster in the end. Now, I'm a Wallace guy. He's put on weight this offseason. I've said that like 8 billion times here on the channel. I hope that he's going to make the roster. I think he still has a very clear path. That's why he's a bubble candidate and not a cut candidate. But if he struggles during training camp and is the fourth best safety on this roster, you only want to keep 3, maybe 4 safeties, depending on others' depth chart and roster spots, and so he could very easily be a guy who could be let go. Marcus Epps has played better from everything that I have heard, everything that I have read, and if that continues, then there might not be a need for a guy like K'Von Wallace. So another guy battling for his roster life. There you go. Reid Sinnett, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Britton Covey, Patrick Johnson, and K'Von Wallace are kind of the 5 roster bubble guys I wanted to talk about on today's video, just to get you guys ready to go in case things were to happen. Cuts are going to happen here very, very soon. Next couple of weeks, training camp's going to get started, and we'll cover it all here on the channel, so stay tuned. Hit the thumbs up button for that. Of course, make sure you guys are subscribed, be part of our mailbag video happening later on this weekend. We'll probably start filming that tomorrow or Saturday, but hit the red subscribe button down below to be a part of possibly a mailbag video. And use the hashtag Eagles in the comments section. Get your question asked and answered right now. For Fed Up Eagles Now, all at a time, Toss Mott signing off for the rest of your day.